Let's start. I'm going to use this texture that Midjourney made for me, a seamless tile texture. It's nice and simple. You could also use a Megascans material. Just use the regular image from it. We're not going to be dealing with normal maps or anything like that. Create a new material. Mine is going to be called My Clover. And I'm just going to drag that texture image of the clover and attach it to base color for now. Change the roughness to 1 because I do not like shiny clover. And then this is a very simple material. Make sure you've selected the landscape. Drag the clover as material. And here we go. This looks really bad. Obviously, you can see the tiling and the color is very unnaturally even and flat. So we need to add a little more complexity to this material. Right-click and add a texture coordinate. And this we could use to scale in the X and Y direction, but instead we're going to create a scalar parameter. And this way, when we create our material instance, we'll be able to apply different settings to it very easily. So that's going to be a variable here, and we're going to multiply the texture coordinate by the scalar parameter and attach that to UV. And UV is just like X and Y kind of. It doesn't mean ultraviolet. All right, so let's hit apply now. And because I changed the scalar parameter to 0.5, the tiling is a little bit larger than before. The color of the grass looks really fake, so I'm going to right-click and add a vector parameter, and that will be called Tint 1. Here you can choose a color. I'm going to choose a super bright green to tint the image of the clover with. And we're going to multiply that with a multiply node. The image can be plugged in as A and the tint as B, and then output that to base color. And there you can see the color popped a bit and it's much brighter now. It still looks really fake, but I like that. I like a bright, happy, vibrant green. As a preview of what we're going to do later in creating a material instance, let's just do that really quick. Right-click and choose Create Material Instance, and it will automatically label it with Instance at the end. And if we apply that, it will look exactly the same, but now you can see here you have your parameters, which you can change very easily now. In this material instance, you can play with the scale and the tint color. So this is very useful rather than having to get into your nodes again to make changes. And that's why we want to set up our master material with all those nodes, but have as many parameters or variables as possible for later. So I'm just going to go back to the master material again, My Clover, or parent material, I think is what it's called. And for organization, we can highlight all these nodes and hit C on the keyboard for comment, and we can call this texture 1. And then we can select everything and Control C, Control V to copy and paste it. And this we're going to call texture 2. And we need to change all these parameter names. It's going to be tiling 2, and this will be tint 2. If you forget to change the name, when you change one, then both of them are going to change to the same thing. And we want them to be independent of each other. This tint, we could try a blue, see what happens. But we now need to multiply, oh no, sorry, this we're gonna lerp, right? You would think maybe you can multiply, but no, we're gonna do lerp, L-E-R-P, which is a linear interpolation. Basically, we're mixing A and B, but we're gonna use a sort of pattern image, which is a linear color. That we don't need to get into that. But basically, it's a pattern that's going to determine how the colors are mixed together. Right now, if we apply these changes without having plugged in that alpha, it's not going to look very interesting. So let's copy and paste our texture 2. This is going to be alpha 1. And remember, we need to change all the variables. So I'll call this maybe tiling alpha 1. And we do not need the tint or this multiply. All we need to do is select a different image here. And this macro variation picture came with starter content, I believe. I used the VR templates with starter content, and yeah, it included this macro variation picture. You could create a picture yourself, or I will show you later where some of the other ones are that you could use. And you're gonna just choose one of these color outputs and plug it in as the alpha. And we are going to want this image, this pattern, to spread across the whole land, like a very large scale. So I'm going to change this number. You want it to be like pretty low, maybe 0.01, 0.05, try in that range, or even sometimes 0.005. Use contrasting colors just so you can see what that pattern is looking like. Yeah, this scale I think looks better. Yeah. But some of this grass is too blue. And you can end up playing with the colors for a really long time. And of course, you could use different images too. You don't have to use the same clover picture for each one. You could even have grass and dirt or different surfaces and mix those together. In VR though, you're gonna wanna conserve processing, and if you can just minimize the number of pictures you're using and just tint maybe the same one different colors, that's going to help out quite a bit, at least in 2024. Maybe one day it won't matter so much. Right click on this macro variation and convert it to a parameter, because you might want to try out different pictures for different effects, and we want that to be as easy as possible in the material instance later. You could call it alpha pick 1. And now if we right click to create a material instance of that parent material, here we have all these different parameters. We can change the tints, we can change the scale, we can change our macro variation to some other image, a different pattern. But for now, I'm going to go back to the parent material again. The land still looks pretty fake and boring, so let's add one more layer of complexity to this. I'm going to copy my texture 2 and paste it, and this will be texture 3. And don't forget to change all the variables. We've got tiling 3, we're going to have tint 3, and now we can change that to a third color for our landscape. So let's go with yellow maybe. And we're going to need another lerp. Everybody's favorite node. So another lerp, and now our first lerp is going to plug into A, and our new tint is going to be the B input, and now we need another alpha. So we're going to copy, paste our old one, call it alpha 2, change our variable names, tiling alpha 2, and this image will be alpha pick 2. Okay, now this you're going to have to change the scale a little bit so it's different than the other one. You can also change the image, and this is something that you can end up playing with quite a bit until you get the effect you want. Pick a color channel and plug that in as alpha on the new lerp, and then output the new lerp as the base color. All right, now we can hit apply and see what happens. All right, so there's a lot of yellow now. And now we can tweak our new tint and play around until we get the effect that we like. Now is the perfect time to create our material instance, and we can play with all these different tints and pictures. And I think, yeah, we have all the variables that we need, all the parameters we want to play with. So now we can right click, create an instance, and we're going to apply the instance material to the landscape. And I'm just going to check all of these boxes because I'll probably be adjusting everything. Yeah, it looks like I need more contrast between the 3 tints. We can try a different picture here for our alpha image. You can search for noise, and you should have some of these images. Like this one here, it looks a little bit like camo, like a camo print or camouflage, but it could work for the landscape you're doing, like for dunes or something maybe. It seems, yeah, wind noise. It's at 0.04, and it gives that sort of effect. And so, yeah, if you search for noise, pictures, you should have several options. Or you can make your own. You can look into how to create these patterns that you could use for your landscape. After a while of playing around, I liked this effect here with this tiling noise and macro variation. You can see the settings here with these 3 very bold tints to the clover. I like this effect. It's not exactly realistic. It's a bit dreamlike or surreal looking, but I like it. Here are some of the other materials I created before, or I should say instances that I tinted a little bit differently. And they're very similar, but this one is more subtle with the color contrast. And this one has a nice effect as well. Got some darker blue. And here's like, yeah, purlin noise. These are some of the other images that I had with, I think, the starter content. It was just there in the project. So I'm going to stick with this latest material instance that I worked on. I'm going to go into the directional light because this is a big part of coloring your landscape. You can change the brightness, you can change the tint of your directional light. And in our environment light mixer, our height fog, we can change that number. We can make it 0.07 for a little bit of haze in the distance. Or at something like 0.02, it'd be quite clear. Try combinations of directional light settings with your parameters in your material instance, and you should be able to get an effect that you like for your landscape. Maybe we want to change the image of the clover. So I'm going to go back into the parent material, and I am going, so I can just go in here and change the image if I want to. Maybe something from Megascans from the Fab store. And I could leave the last one different. Let's see what happens. Okay, that doesn't look too good. But we have to adjust now based on the new clover picture because that's way more yellow and red than the other picture was. So we got to play around with the tints and possibly the tiling and the alpha images. And of course, if we're going to be trying a lot of different pictures, we may as well convert these to parameters as well. So right click, and you got to give them each a unique parameter name. And this way, in our material instance, we can easily change these pictures. So we could make them all different or all the same, and it'll be a lot easier to do. See, now I can check these boxes and now swap out these images very easily while we view the results in our game. Now you can see, yeah, there's a mix now of a Megascans grass and clover with my kind of cartoony looking clover picture from Mid-Journey. Okay, and after messing around some more with all the settings, I like this wind noise here and the macro variation with the same clover dots picture for everything and these 3 tints. I like that effect. It's colorful, it's fun, it looks kind of realistic, I guess. It breaks up the tiling for sure. So at least it looks like a natural ground cover, not made of tiles of the same clover image. The mixture down here is nice, even without a normal map for giving it some depth. It's fine, it's good enough for VR. You don't really want to add normal maps in VR. They don't look that good, and then you're gonna require a lot more processing. But you can try it if you want. The giant chipmunk is still here from the other videos, but I added that rocket. This was kind of a celebration of the Starship, SpaceX Starship, being caught by the chopsticks. But I'm still exploring megalophobia too. Here is this giant woman, and in VR, believe me, it seems a lot bigger, like a giant's gonna crush you. And yeah, it was pretty scary. I had to run away when those boots got too close. I could make her even bigger too. We'll see next time. Good looking clover though. Really nice. I'm just going to try some different configurations of the landscape material and go back into VR and take a look around and see which one I like the best.
Starship blasting off from all